it got me looking at the next level. The next level then would be the mitochondrial level. You might know that mitochondria is a part of our cells. It's like the furnaces of the cell. That's where you actually make energy, right? That's where your body actually takes the glucose, the sugar, and converts it into energy we call ATPs, molecules of energy. And we know now that things can interfere with that. That same chronic stress can interfere with that. That same chronic inflammation that may have hurt the gut or may have hurt the adrenals can also hurt the mitochondria. So for a lot of my patients when I'm not getting results or when we've gotten some improvement, but there's still obviously room for improvement, then I'm looking at mitochondrial health. And that's where I'll use something like ATP fuel to try to improve the efficiency of the mitochondria, to help repair them. It's probably a good example of restorative medicine, try to put back what's needed or try to repair something that used to function well. And I'm impressed by some of the simple studies done. You can see how these things are all connected. There was one study that I often quote to my patients done with white mice. There's a strain of white mice, whose metabolism is so much like humans that we study them when we're studying human metabolism or medications to be used in humans. And somebody thought it out very nicely and just took two groups of these mice, and they were able to control how many calories we gave them and able to control how many calories they burnt. In other words, by putting them on treadmills. The only difference between the two groups was that the experimental group, their water was tainted with a common pesticide found in drinking water. As you know, there's not much clean, pure water left for us these days unless you're getting it well filtered or buying it supposedly spring water. But the point was that what they found was after a few weeks that the mice getting the tainted water were gaining weight faster, and their blood tests were showing signs of insulin resistance. That is, they were moving towards diabetes. And interestingly enough, to make the point about mitochondria, when they kill the little critters or kill the little mice, they and look at the mitochondria, they can see that the mitochondria were actually physically altered. They were different. They weren't normal mitochondria anymore. And of course, one would expect that would be due to the effect of that toxin. And with the amount of toxins that we know we're all exposed to, toxin in the air pollution, toxins in the water, toxins in our foods. I mean, even organic foods, unfortunately, are still watered with water that may have some chemicals and pesticides in it. Even if we're not using pesticides on the organic foods themselves. So there's a lot going on, and I think the part of the future of medicine will be acknowledging and more respect for the amount of toxicity and how that toxicity is impacting not just the liver, but as this study points out, the effect on mitochondria. I first learned about ATP fuel after listening to a few lectures on patients with chronic fatigue. In that setting, the chronic fatigue was coming more from Lyme disease. And of course, I learned along the way that the problem with situations like Lyme disease is not the Lyme disease itself, but rather that when you're exposed to Lyme disease, you're exposed to groups of infections, mycoplasma, chlamydia, several different infections that start creating a drain on the body, so to speak. It's like an ongoing chronic war. And the effect of that war is going to have chronic inflammation in the body, and the effects of some of those chemicals from the chronic inflammation will ultimately be harmful not only to the liver, but also to the mitochondria. And the ATP fuel itself, it's really a combination of supplements. The main part, I think the part that really makes a difference is the phospholipids, which are special fats. Fats are similar to the ones that are in our cell membranes, and they make up so much of our brain. But these fats need to be at levels high enough that will make their way into the mitochondria, where they seem to be used to help the mitochondria function better. And ultimately, I guess the proof is in the pudding, meaning that those few patients that have a mitochondria repair or mitochondria support, with ATP fuel have improved. I mean, to the point now that I want to try it on myself even to see how much does it improve in ordinary people that are not so much, down as fatigued or in a state of chronic fatigue. These are the people that we have tried everything else I know to do that it has helped them, but it hasn't helped them enough.